Clarity on the road to civil war. If there's one thing that makes this job difficult, it is the endless smokescreens. Filtering out the noise is draining. From the doublespeak of politicians to the endless manipulation of financial markets by central bankers, the world is awash in fake news, fake prices, and fake geniuses. So, when a series of events occur that bring clarity to the circus that is world politics, my first reaction is to distrust them. It's that weird moment when the evildoers rip off their masks and just start telling you what their intentions are. This creates cognitive dissonance in those of us conditioned to read between the thinnest of lines, but sometimes things are exactly what they appear to be. And what is clear to me now is that the deep state is done whipping the progressive left into a frenzy over Donald Trump. They are now openly handing him pitchforks and mustering for a hostile takeover of the Oval Office. The anonymous op-ed published by the New York Times timed perfectly with the leaked quotes from moldy old Bob Woodward's new book, Fear, Trump in the White House, are clarion calls for a challenge to Trump's competency via the 25th Amendment. We are in the last 60 days before the midterm elections. The fear of loss by the deep state is palpable. If Trump survives this election with his base and any form of congressional majority intact, he will finally be able to go to town on these people who are a threat not just to the country, but to humanity itself. This narrative about Trump being unstable and insane began during the campaign, and those that need to believe in this were always willing to keep this fire stoked. After that, it was simply a matter of repeating the lie over and over until hopefully they'd manufactured a bonfire big enough to roast Trump on the altar of their agenda. Trump at times doesn't help himself with some of his antics. It's no secret that Trump has little respect for the, quote, proper way to do things in Washington. And I'm sure stories about him making fun of H.R. McMaster's suits have more truth to them than fiction. Frankly, when I read that quote from Bob Woodward's book, I laughed out loud. This certainly rubs his staff the wrong way. They want the status quo maintained. But what these careerists refuse to understand is this is exactly what we elected him for. Their way is over. Even the hardcore progressives are crushing incumbents in their primaries. Populism is now bipartisan. So Woodward's stories and Trump's not towing the neocon party line are only going to endear him to us that much more. Bob Mueller is openly threatening anyone on Trump's side in D.C. to turn on him either by staying quiet or lie. Trump is surrounded by neocons and globalists. They hate his skepticism about U.S. foreign and trade policy. They are only there because that's what's available from the pool of candidates for many of these jobs. It's an unfortunate reality, but from a procedural level, these are the people who make the D.C. political trains run on time. It makes you wonder if the Coen brothers' brilliant movie about the D.C. cocktail party circuit, Burn After Reading, is more documentary than farce. And that creates a foundation to build a case against him in the court of public opinion, the only court he can be tried in since Bob Mueller's investigation has failed completely to find any evidence of collusion between Trump and the Russians. In fact, all Mueller has done is to expose the lengths to which members of the FBI, CIA, MI6, the DNC, and John McCain, or do I repeat myself, went to spy on him with the intent to frame him. This is the real civil war that has been brewing for 2 years now. What the New York Times article did was try to shift the blame for staffer disobedience onto Trump. This is the essence of the deep state, the unelected bureaucracy that acts independently of the wishes of the president and other elected officials. In the same way that last week, this same New York Times tried to spin the FBI's purchasing of the Steele dossier about Trump as a way to flip Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska. Pull the other leg, it plays frickin' jingle bells. All of these stories are ludicrous. And Trump is right to call out the Times to reveal its source within the White House on national security grounds. The real danger, though, for Trump is passivity. I've said many times that spooks start civil wars, but militaries end them. And it's no shock then that the juiciest of the leaked quotes from Woodward's book revolve around 2 generals on Trump's staff, James Mattis and John Kelly. And it's also no shock that both men who respect the chain of command vehemently denied these quotes. Trump needs to go on the offensive here. He needs to give his base, who are in the trenches every day, burning Nike shoes, eating In-N-Out burgers, and canceling their NFL Sunday ticket packages, something to fight for. They will go through the wall for him if he goes to bat for them, because now is the time to strike. Trump's enemies have overextended themselves. Their arrogance and frankly desperation have placed them firmly at odds with a clear majority of Americans. They have revealed themselves as agent provocateurs and traitors. The sad spectacle that is the Brett Kavanaugh hearings will do nothing but alienate more of the center of the United States. The left is cannibalizing itself as the Democrats move hard left. Blacks and Hispanics are walking away from them. The Uniparty is in retreat with retirements and primary upsets on both sides of the political fence. These midterms are shaping up to be an extension of the 2016 presidential election, a clear choice between America's future by dismantling its insane kleptocracy or returning to the past and enshrining it into stone is on the ballot.